I'm hype. I'm hype. See what we got here. Okay. Wait, hold up. Remember real quick. Why the fuck did he open his eye up? What the fuck? Could this be fucking peak foreshadowing? Holy shit. Now, while this isn't exclusively a definitely not what is in OP, I will still be talking about the opening near the end briefly, and I will say briefly because there is not much to go off of. But if you came here for that, here's the time you can skip to. Like, I love Bluelock, and it's an amazing show, except that it really isn't, relatively speaking, and relatively to itself. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, Bluelock writing is ass, especially when it comes to characters. What I mean by this is that in a sports anime, you'd normally expect fleshed out characters with substantial growth in their character, and of course their skill, as the story progresses. Well, for season 1 of Bluelock, Isugi is still the same person. We hardly know of his backstory, and his character motivation is the same as pretty much everyone else's. Yet, he's a 10 out of 10 MC. Why is that? Notice how I mentioned that you'd normally expect this from a sports anime, but you can't really expect these normal standards to apply to Bluelock, and that is due to another flaw of its writing. It's mostly good because it is mostly hype. Now, don't get me wrong, will I meet right Bluelock to the top and call it the greatest sports anime / manga? Fuck yes. But is it at the expense of me knowing that the reason I like it is less so of the quality of writing and more of Himsugi Yoichi being the GOAT? Well, yes, it is at that expense. But that's just the thing, this doesn't necessarily make Bluelock bad. Because like I said, you can't really compare it to other sports anime due to its unique plot. Only thing you could compare it is hype, and Bluelock, especially in the manga, has that against anyone. But what else does it have? Well, I will be the first to tell you that it does not have animation down. Sure, there are moments of Sakuga that fills me with serotonin like this.
That's why he's everything! That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
But mostly it uses close-up shots of characters with shitty CGI running, and it gets worse later on. Regardless though, I think this goes to show a point I am trying to make about Bluelock overall, and that is that when it is good, it is really good. And when it's bad, it's not really bad, but rather just not good. Does that shit make sense? Fuck no. But like I said, you can't make Bluelock make sense. You can't use the same metrics as other animes. Anyways, what does Bluelock have that makes it good, compared to itself of course? Well, I'd like to say that the character interactions are top notch. Of course, there is nothing like, oh yeah, we make a good team, but rather it's more of move for the sake of my goal. But it goes both ways, and that's what we call peak character interactions. There's a sort of rivalry that sparks between them, and it's a non-toxic one, kinda like the one we see in Black Clover between Asta and Yuno. I mean, if you don't believe me, a whole aspect of the second selection is making chemical reactions between your teammates. And Isugi and Baro's reaction is literally devouring each other. Meanwhile, Isugi's and Nagi's reaction is passing balls to each other. Pause? Regardless, Isugi's off the field character interactions are also top notch, and especially in the manga. Skip like 30 seconds ahead if you want to avoid a very minute manga spoiler. But as we see in chapter 213, the Egoist 4 love each other. Pause? And this wholesome character interaction is what I mean by peak character interactions. So now that everyone is back, I just want to reiterate that Bluelock has its own way of having character interactions, and it's just peak in its own way. Speaking of peak, the plot. But Angel, it's not realistic to real soccer. Shut the fuck up. For starters, this is a work of fiction, but even then, it incorporates soccer really well. From shooting formulas to the skills demonstrated, he does a really good portrayal of soccer. As for the plot itself, this shit is peak. With many twists and turns, especially later in the manga, Bluelock's idea of every man for themselves in this Squid Game-esque survival of the fittest facility is peak. At the start, I heard people brush off the threat of failing in Bluelock as a way of just for the plot to happen and move on. But the thing is, people did not understand that failure in Bluelock is failure in life. They asked for all these potential up-and-coming strikers to give up on their dreams as they would never make it to the top, which is something that they have been working for their whole lives. For most anyways. But yes, the plot is peak and the premise of the show gets better in the manga. By the way, have I mentioned that you should read the manga if you haven't already? Well, you should, especially if you're impatient like me. If not, season 2 in the Nagi movie is coming out soon-ish, I hope. Moving on, the music is great. If this show is to have hype moments, it needs hype music to accompany it, and it definitely does. The music that plays during some of the goals resembles the music used in the mid-episode cutoffs and title screen. Adding the OSTs to the scene just makes it a nice addition. Just watch.
ある者は言った。フットボールの世界において一流のゴールキーパーやディフェンダー、ミッドフィルダーは育てることができるが、ストライカーだけはその類ではない。一流のストライカーという生き物はその時最もフットボールの熱い場所に一番強いやつバン突如として出現する。
カップ優勝のために。
Anyways, speaking of music, it's time to get to the opening analysis, as the self-proclaimed #1 anime OP analysis connoisseur. So if you came for Blue Lock analysis, this is semi-over. Anyways, let's go. To start off, we see a ball flying into the sky and falling at someone's feet. Whose it is? I don't know, I don't have a foot fetish. But the OP makes you assume it's Isagi, then Bachira, then Kunigami, and etc, etc. What's good about this sequence is that it introduces main characters while quickly telling you what they're all about. Take for example Bachira, the ball is a cross, and what does he do? He dribbles it of course, so he catches the ball in his unique dribbling form, and this is how he makes a goal. At the same time, the background shows the color of their eagle's aura, and so this sequence not only reminds the viewer how they play, but also introduces their eagle color once they unlock it, because remember, they all start from blue. Anyways, nice little cross into individual ways to receive the cross to score a goal. Moving on. We already saw this, but his eyes open with that arrogant smirk because it's later revealed that he's a traitor. Pretty simple shit right there. And so we get to the rest of Team Z, and at the center and end of it, the GOAT Isagi Yoichi. Because he is the backbone of this team and the one you need to beat. And the MC of course. Oh, and it also has a blue aura of course. But one thing to notice about the sequence is that it's not just a character introduction, it's the background. Is it to save money? Maybe, but could it be analogous to the next scene and a statement that Ren Itoshi stated later in the show? Let's see. Pure white background signifying purity of the players and the vastness of the world. Then the Blue Lock logo comes in showing that these players are put into the Blue Lock. And bam, their world is now dark and grimy and seems like a battlefield. Now where have I heard this before?
お前らはこのボール一つで戦う行為をまだただのスポーツと思ってんだろ。消えてくんねえからマジで。ここは戦場だぞ。
So we get to the scene of loneliness. As we can see here, these characters are either alone, or if there's another human body, they are either falling and / or dead on the ground. Because in Blue Lock, in this battlefield, it is merciless, and only those strong enough can be on top. Another nice touch in this scene is that Isagi is holding the ball, symbolizing that after the first game we saw him lose, his soccer career was dead. But then we flash to the Blue Lock logo again and bam, Isagi is now determined because, remember, he was the first to accept Eagle's invitation and that reignited his love for soccer. Next we see his Bachira, where before Blue Lock he had his dribbling and love for soccer, but all on his own. His imaginary monster is not shown because that is all he is, imaginary. And so Blue Lock happens and his freakish smile comes into screen because he has found his monster in real life in Blue Lock, and that is obviously. This next scene is showing off how Ego is presenting a puzzle piece to Isagi in the form of him needing to drop bodies and devour other people on this battlefield. Then a ball breaks the screen and we are left with the shattered battlefield where Isagi stands alone above all the bodies. But this Isagi is sad, walking slowly, and the words "how crazy is that feeling" is playing. What does this all mean? Well, for starters, that feeling is the one he felt when he first accepted Ego's invitation. And secondly, it wasn't him who devoured all these people's dreams and left them soulless. Oh no, it was a different Isagi, who was standing on top of the hill, surprised at his own potential. A husk with no soul, a white canvas in his painting. This is an Isagi that needs puzzle pieces to complete himself in order to achieve what he sees. And that's the next scene, that white husk reaching out for the World Cup. But he can't, he's not Noah Noah. So can he reach out to him? No, he can't, he's not good enough. So can he get good enough in Blue Lock? The answer is yes. Ego pretty much smiles at him, confirming that yes, Bluelock is where you can win the World Cup one day. And so the old Isagi, who we saw walking slowly and sadly, starts running to the husk on top of the hill as he breaks apart into puzzle pieces so he can build this new version of himself that needs to devour everything. And so the next scene shows everyone in Bluelock who he must devour using those puzzle pieces. And so now in the pitch we get a determined Isagi and a determined Team Z playing their heart out, because when Isagi's good, they all are. Again, this scene is showing how these strikers' skills work and the aura color, and we even get to see Isagi's aura change mid-sequence, which is pretty cool. Then the screen cuts to some of Isagi's future enemies as he's yelling and sweating because he is desperate to devour them, because that's what you gotta do to become the best striker in the world. And the ball goes into the net, presumably his goal, and well, that's only opening 1. Let's go to opening 2. And so we start with Isagi kicking a ball and breaking all those bonds he dare make, because there's a man-eat-man world. And who do we see? Some other important characters with their respective auras getting broken and shattered into pieces, because Isagi's ball and aura is taking over the screen. Pause? And so the ball transitions into Bluelock, and scenes we have already lived in the first part are enjoyed here, including a Team Z victory, and we all are happy because we survived Selection 1, the end. Psych! We face the top 3 in Bluelock, lose Bachita, and we fall down to the loser's gate. And damn, this has been a tough day for Isagi. This second selection is not going too well so far, and so tied down by his losses and short taste of euphoria, he and Nagi cry and reflect a little bit. Then after remembering what they lost, Nagi and Isagi are determined to break those shackles they got from the losses and team up to make it to the top. They step into the doors to the next game, and we see enemies we must devour and cool little desktop images you can use. Seriously though, this opening is mostly cool desktop images. Symbolically, opening number 1 is better, but visually and auditorially, this one's better. Anyways, at the end of the day, it is up to Himsagi and his eyes and ability to destroy himself and build himself to win this. And that is what we see him do in the next sequence, as he is smiling because he is now an egoist and finds joy in killing people's dream. Anyways, nice little desktop images segment here, not much to analyze, but like, just the way they transfer from player to player is pretty cool, and the way it shows off their techniques and auras is also cool, especially from Kunigami to Baro. Like, this can easily be a wallpaper in your desktop picture. I'm not gonna check, but it probably already exists. Anyways, we cut to the greatest battle of geniuses thus far, and it's just them in this world that only they can see. The battlefield that is Bluelock. This sequence ends with Isagi getting outplayed, and he is left surprised and left in shock. He thought by devouring all these bodies, he is strong enough to take on even Renitoshi. And so instinctively, with no time to cope or think about his actions, he destroys himself, he breaks apart. He's crazy. He had no say in this. Remember, he's an egoist now. He blows up, slowly rebuilds himself again, and he reaches out to grasp 4 important things. 1 is the World Cup, and 2 is Noah Noah. This is still his motivation that was established in opening number 1. Then number 3 is Renitoshi, as he is the one he needs to devour and control in the palm of his hands in order to become the greatest striker. And of course, number 4 is puzzle pieces. This is the only way for his ego to spark, for those flames to catch on fire. And so we get an evil smile at the end with the phrase, "You can't be the best striker in the world unless you're the best egoist in the world." And so this peak at opening ends. Well, one thing I really want to emphasize is this idea of being an egoist, and how, especially in opening number 2, it is shown that this idea has fully corrupted Isagi to the point of insanity and an uncontrollable desire to destroy himself. There's a semi-minor Bluelock manga spoiler, so skip 30 seconds ahead to avoid it. But in the next arc, we see Isagi acknowledge this destructive disorder that was given to him by ego, when he says, "Fuck you, ego, make us win because you taught me how to be this egotistical." Anyways, we should all be back in time for me to say goodbye. Bluelock is peak, and in its own unique way, it is one of the best sports anime ever made. And its openings are peak as well. That's all I gotta say. So long my diamonds in the rough. Thank you for watching.